All right. Hey, we got baseball tonight, Kevin Barker, after an off day. What is that? Who the hell are you toasting with your coffee cup? The fact we have baseball.
Absolutely.
There you go. Tampa Bay Rays are in town.
What can go wrong?
First of a 3-game series at the Rogers Center, 7:10 first pitch, as Jose Barrios takes on Sean Armstrong. The Jays lineup is in. No Rays lineup yet. I guess we'll find out from Brian Anderson, the Rays TV analyst, in a few minutes whether or not Yandy Diaz is back with the team. He was given permission to leave the team to take care of a family matter. Brian Anderson at 4:30. Jeff Passan at 5 o'clock. I've already tweeted out a link to his article on ESPN, a deep, and I mean deep dive into the trade deadline. Ben Shulman will join us from the ballpark at 5:30 as well. The Jays lineup is as follows. No surprises, I do not believe. Springer, Horwitz, Guerrero, Turner, Schneider, Varsho, Kirk, Clement, Jimenez, Spencer Horwitz. Nothing sexy here. They don't have Vlad in left field and Spencer in right. Nothing. They got Spencer Horwitz at second base. Vladdy is at first. And Justin Turner is DHing Jose Barrios on the mound for the Blue Jays. Kevin, what has happened to Jose Barrios this year?
Yeah.
You look back at the first month of the season. It was great the first month of the season.
Yeah.
What's happened in the last 6 or 7 starts?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think one thing is he's got the second most innings since 2018 with over 1,100. Exactly 1,128 and a third. That's second most, only behind Aaron Nola. That's the first thing, right? I mean, we talk about having to throw a lot, having to do it with command, having to do it with feel, having to do it with making adjustments, front hip two-seamer, elevating some two-seamers, elevating the four-seamer, like trying to evolve into what hitters can't do instead of staying with your strength. Sometimes he's overthrowing the slurve. That's why I think the command of that pitch sometimes is down the middle. I don't think he sometimes uses the changeup enough. That's a really good pitch for him. He seems to, have that grip it and rip it and keeps it in the zone, and it's a good enough separation between the fastball velocity and the changeup velocity. So, look, I'm sure he's going through some things. Again, this expectations of if you give up a run, you're losing a game, combination of that. And here lately, in June and July, he's faced some really good teams, right? Those back-to-back starts against the Guardians is not the easiest thing to do, right? An attack team, when it just comes to putting the ball in play, using the entire field, they got balance with the left-handed hitters. So
he's just not striking. He's not striking out a lot of guys, though. And does that suggest to you, should we be concerned about the quality of the stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's pretty predictable with 2 strikes, right? I think that gets back to the command. The velocity's a little erratic with the fastballs, which is never a good thing. You want that consistency, right? That sort of doesn't allow the hitter to let it travel, right? If I can pitch at 95, let that thing eat. If I got 100 pitches and I throw 55 fastballs, I want 53 of those to be 95 miles an hour, right? I want to pitch at that number. It's rare that he does that. It's very erratic, and it may get back to that over 1,100 innings since 2018, right? It's done a lot. Like, that's
young dude, though. I mean, he's not an old guy. He's a good athlete.
He's made adjustments with momentum when it comes to the delivery and trying to have the same release point and just being able to command balls now that, in the past he probably couldn't do that consistently. So, I think it's a marathon. It's a combination of a bunch of things, right? I'm sure there's things we don't know about what's going on off the field. There's always something that could be, sort of the reason why he's not striking a bunch of guys out. But I do think the erratic nature of the velocity of the 2 fastballs, I think he overthrows the slurve. The velocity of that thing, too, is – sometimes it's too hard, sometimes it's too slow. Instead of it just being, I'm trusting it, I'm catching it out front, I can backdoor it, I can backfoot it, and that's another thing. When you got 3 different variations of that slurve, that's a hard thing to do, right? If I want to get on top of it, it's 12-6. If I want to get on the side of it, it's a slider. If I want to backdoor it, now I'm sort of catching it a little deeper where I want it to sort of side spin more than do top spin and trying to really get it out front and back foot it to where it has to have that, throw it harder, tunneling longer, breaks more. Like, there's a lot of variations there. There's a lot going on with his delivery and just the mindset. And, again, sometimes he's predictable too, which is never a good thing, right? If I fall behind, I'm pretty predictable on what location I'm going to and what pitch I'm going to. And I think that's why he's tied for first, giving up homers from 21. It's a big deal, right? So there's a lot going on there. For me, it starts with command of the fastball. For whatever reason, the four-seamer and the two-seamer is getting hammered. And a lot of times it's more of a two-seamer than it is a sinker. And that, again, is, that could be numerous things. So, just the location now, because he doesn't throw consistently as hard as he used to throw, I think that has something to do with why he's given up as many home runs as he's given up, and the location's just not there. And then when your location's not there, you tend to not trust stuff. You tend to overthrow things, and you leave balls in zones where good hitters are going to make you pay for it.
We've talked a lot about the Jays' rotation, and it's pretty clear that Yusei Kikuchi is going to be traded. Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett. Someone made the point on the MLB network yesterday that if you are intent on running it back with Bo and Vladdy next year, it makes no sense to completely empty your starting rotation at this trade deadline. It makes no sense to trade Gausman, and it makes no sense to trade Bassett as well as Kikuchi if you're planning to run it back next year. I mean, you're going to need somebody to pitch next year. If you are going to run it back, you're not going to go out and sign 4 free agents. That's apparent. You can't count on Alek Manoah. That's apparent. You don't know about Ricky Tiedemann. That's apparent as well. Is Jose Barrios, in your mind, still the guy you build this staff around?
Yeah, you look at the other guys. I mean, Bassett will be 36 next year. You're going to build anything around him?
You may not have a choice, is what I'm saying.
If somebody comes to call him, I'm trading Bassett. Like, I'm going to try and get. He'll be 36 next year. Right. I mean, how many times are you going to go to the well? And the Gausman thing is confusing to me. I mean, through 97 pitches his last outing, he only had 7 whiffs. Right, the Ks per 9 are a little over 8. They were 11.5 last year. Why? What's going on there? I mean, we know he's trying to throw slider two-seamer a little bit more. For whatever reason, the command of the split finger, which just the way it's ending up, is just consistently not there. Why? I know what you just said. It's going to be hard to go out and buy 4. But if you're ever looking for any reason whatsoever to sort of just do whatever you want to do, clean slate-wise, again, you ain't going to trade all of them. But you could trade 2 of those 4, right? And then you can go out. The owner's telling everybody he ain't afraid to spend money. If he needs to pony up for whatever he needs to, because they're real good at it. You noticed? Like that. And with Pete Walker added to the mix, you can sort of figure out ways to adjust and give your team a chance to consistently to give them a quality start so they can win a baseball game. So if it's me, I'm trading 2 of the 4. Whatever 2 of the 4 that is, if somebody wants to come and give me a bigger haul for Barrios, I'd trade him. That's just me. I think with you being 9 under, 10 out of a wild card spot, and 15 out of the East, if not now, when? And with the way Barrios has looked, maybe he's getting older. Maybe he's pitched too much. Maybe I'm not saying he's not a good pitcher, and I'm not saying he's not going to give you an opportunity. You win a World Series with Barrios taking the ball game 1. Be honest now. You just answered the question. So that's what the end goal here is, right? With the way the Yankees are, with the way the Astros are going to be, with the way the Orioles are going to be. The Twins seem to have your number. The Mariners at the playoffs. I mean, we talk about other teams needing number 1s, just like we talked about the Orioles. Barrios, your number 1. This Barrios. Going to be a year older, he's thrown a lot.
I mean, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this when I was coming in today after hearing that comment on the MLB. I can't remember who said it on the MLB network, but it got me thinking about that, about what it means if you decide to run it back next year with Vladdy and Bo, or at least go into the offseason telling people you're going to run it back with Vladdy and Bo. And I started thinking about that. I thought, okay, what else has to happen? Like you're 9 out with Vladdy and Bo as it is right now. Now, yeah, Bo's had an awful year. I get that. Say Bo is having a Bo Bichette year. That alone isn't going to make up for the games you've lost this year. Bo Bichette having a Bo Bichette year, there's still no guarantee that you're going to be in, that you're going to be.
Quality of your roster, in 26 guys is not great.
Exactly.
That's what I said. That's more reason for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make moves if, it's sort of, you're going to take calls on everybody. This is me, other than the guy standing at first. He's the one guy that's untouchable. You get rid of him, the team's unwatchable. Offensively, they're unwatchable. Really, and that's part of it. Like you still want to put fannies in the seats. Like people still love Vladdy. Now there's some that don't like what he does and how he acts and how he's always smiling. Whatever. To each his own.
Those people are good.
Yeah,
I mean, those people are going to.
But he's one of the guys for me. And we've seen talent wise, if he's got a little help around him. I mean, if somebody else other than him is trying to carry the load, like Springer. One guy gets hot, here comes the other guy. They sort of meeting in the middle. It ain't one guy trying to carry the load for the other 8 guys, right? You need one guy feeding off the other guy. This guy feeding off of this guy when this guy's not getting it done. So they've told you, again, I've said this a bazillion times, the blueprint's here. It's not hard now. Like, they're real good at going out and buying starting pitching. They got ownership who wants to do it and is willing to do it. Now it's just figuring out the other parts of it, right? You can adjust your bullpen now. I mean, it's not the hardest thing to do in an offseason to find you some 8th inning guys. Jordan will be back. Is Jordan your 9th inning guy? Not for me. I mean, winning a World Series with Jordan Romano as your closer, well, it might not be the easiest thing to do, but
you may not have any choice, though. I mean, you've got 100 things to do in the offseason.
You got a few things to do, absolutely.
And you may be at the point where you may not be good enough to start upgrading, if you know what I mean. Like, you need to have a foundation before you start saying, okay, what can we do to upgrade our closer position? You've got to be good enough to have it make a difference.
I would think this. Right? I would think this. You got to figure out your shortstop. You got to figure that out. Like, it's obviously the two parties are just not. They're not together. Yeah. And now I don't think I'm talking out of turn. Just the way you can see it, and the people that I've talked to.
It's pretty obvious.
Absolutely. So in the offseason, whoever's running this, and if that's part of it, and they're going to run those 2 guys back, and that's Bo's one of the 2. However you need to make that happy, the conversation, whoever needs to do all the talking, I would think that's the first place you start. No? I mean, that would help, right? You would think so. I mean, to run this back, you're going to need 100% of Bo Bichette. If that's the way you want to go here, and you're not willing to trade, or you don't want to trade, or you can't trade, then you need 100% of him being Bo Bichette. And I would think that starts between the years. And I'm not even going to act like I know what the conversation's been like between the two parties, but you can tell just with the way he walks around and the way he talks about the organization that the conversation somewhere somehow needs to be had. So I would think that's the first place you start, and then you can sort of, figure out there are some smart people running this team who understand what it takes to try and win. And, I think now it's for sure that they know now that the way they've tried to do it, might get them in, but, 0-6 in the 3 playoff series. Just that's all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, one of the reasons that I've kind of felt that you need to wait until the offseason to do anything with Bo. Never mind, even if he was healthy, I would still feel the same way. The number of teams that might be interested in Bo Bichette will be bigger in the offseason than they are now. Let's take a look, for example. I'm just going to throw out a team. I'm going to use them as an example. I'm not saying they're interested in Bo Bichette, but I look at a team like the Chicago Cubs. Chicago Cubs general manager has basically said that they're not doing anything for 2024. They're looking to 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean that they might be a player for a healthy Bo? Maybe. I mean, they've got Dansby Swanson, but maybe they're, thinking of moving somebody out, and that creates an opening. And this is what I'm getting at. I think to get maximum value for Bo, you need to do it in the offseason. see where Juan Soto goes, see what that does to the market. The Dodgers, do they still need a shortstop? If the Dodgers don't win the World Series this year, and, the whole Mookie Betts at shortstop thing doesn't work out, like, there's so many things that can happen that I think it just makes more sense to wait until the offseason. And
I don't know about you.
I think you might get, in terms of quantity, you might get more for a Bo Bichette at the trade deadline. But in terms of quality, I think you get more in the offseason. And I'd rather get, instead of getting 3, 6, 7, 8, somebody's 6th, 7th, or somebody's 5th, 6th, and 10th best prospects, I'd rather get their second best prospect plus something else. I'm not, and I think my chances of doing that are a lot better in the offseason than they are in season with Bo. And that even healthy. I'm saying even healthy, even if Bo is healthy, even if he isn't hurt. Especially, having the year he's having right now. I just think I keep thinking back to something Alex Anthopoulos said. I think about Alex Anthopoulos a lot. I find myself thinking more about him these days. But anyhow, one of the things he talked about was when you make a trade at the trade deadline, you want somebody who can contribute. You really don't. So he said, you really don't want a project. You don't want somebody that you have to come in and work with for 2 weeks before you get something out of them. You're looking for somebody whose production is on the upswing, right? He said that. Like, when they went out and made those trades at the World Series, they got guys whose production was on the upswing. And that's why I think, I just think the whole thing with Bo, I think there's a lot of noise there. I've never really bought into the idea he would be traded at the trade deadline, even healthy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what's the relationship like? I would think that's where it starts. Where do they think the organizations, or what's it going to look like going into the offseason, going into spring training? I'm sure they got big picture of what they think and what they want that to look like.
The relationship is what it is. It's not going to change. It is what it is.
Yeah, I understand that, but you somewhat want that party or both parties to meet in the middle and somewhat be happy. If you think you're going to make a decent run at this, you need a happy Bo Bichette. If he's going to be on your team, figure that out.
No. I'm saying you're trading him in the offseason. You don't really care if he's happy. You don't really care if he's happy.
I think the calf thing is a problem. With what leg it is and what he tries to do offensively at the plate. I mean, if you're trading for Bo, you want to make sure 1,000% that's okay. No, that's not a lingering thing. And with the force that he generates with his lower half, especially with his right leg, I mean, I guess that'd be the first thing you'd want.
He's a young enough guy.
But that's a big deal.
He's a young enough guy that it wouldn't bother me. You got to remember when Josh Donaldson had those issues, he was in his 30s.
Well, you might want to be thinking about, too, if that's a calf thing, can he play shortstop every day?
Well, that's...
So there, that would go in the mix too. So I think there's a lot going into that, but I think the question you got to ask yourself is, are they still in win mode? Like, do they still think they can win? Say they trade the people they're supposed to be trading. We all know what those names are. Say they trade most of them. They probably can't trade all of them because they don't have enough to fill in the blanks. But say they trade most of them. Going into the offseason, they think they can fill in enough blanks to be competitive next year. Now, I know the 3 wild card sort of opens the window, and some other teams in the American League might take a step back, or a couple of them may take a step forward.
I was going to say, I don't know who's going to take a step.
That's the thing.
Texas will probably be better next year.
The Rays will probably be better. There's better
Boston's
teams.
going to be better.
Yeah.
The Yankees
would that go into it? It's the question. That's what you got to ask yourself is, is it worth us trading one of the bigger 3 pitchers to get what we need? Maybe we're win mode 26 instead of 25. All those questions have to be answered. There's some unknowns.
This is why I think signing Vladdy becomes so important the rest of this year. If you sign Vladdy, you can convince people that you think you have a shot in 2025, but you're really gearing towards 2026. People might buy that. It's awfully hard to get rid of Vladdy and then tell people you're building, we're not aiming at 2025, we're aiming at 2026. And plus you got the fact that, Mark Shapiro's contract expires at the end of next season. So I don't know. I mean, this thing could go. This thing could go in either direction, but I really would hope that when the trade deadline comes and goes, you still have Vladdy and Bo here. And, my thought, I know Jeff's article, Passan's article, essentially says what we've been saying is you're going to listen, but,
there's two directions you could go, right? It's
not likely that Vladdy's.
It's the three big name pitchers. It's the shortstop. It's the first baseman. You could go that route, or you could go the other route of what we've been talking about, the obvious names that you're going to trade.
And you're not going to
the guys that aren't coming back, which makes more sense.
Yeah, and again, you're going to get, and fans need to prepare themselves for this. You're not getting anybody's top prospect coming back. I mean, you're just not. You may get somebody's Teoscar Hernandez, their 8th, 9th best prospect.
Take 3 of those.
But you're not getting. People have this idea that every player the Jays are willing to trade is going to bring something in return that you can immediately hang your hat on. It's entirely possible that the players the Jays trade, that you don't see any of the players they get in return this year. I mean, that's entirely possible. That is entirely, or you see 1 or 2 of them in the majors this year.
Yeah, they got some heavy lifting to do, especially with the front office. What do they want to do with their coaching staff? Is this the hitting group that you want to bring back next year? Is Guillermo Martinez's time run out? Like it has for me. I mean, how many times you got to run a guy? I mean, it's just there's a lot here that I think there's a starting point, and then you sort of it's a trickle down effect. And don't do this. It gets back to the Springer thing.
I'm just saying they got rid of Dave Hudgens
Springer
last
thing.
year.
Yeah, Dave Hudgens been absolutely nothing. I mean, he was one guy. That was Springer. Yeah, that's the only guy that ever talked to him.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying you can blow the whole coaching staff up. I don't think it makes a difference.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
I do. Getting rid of a manager.
I mean, somebody
a coach that I deal with every
Vladdy.
single day.
Somebody fix Vladdy.
Yeah, he's the guy that comes in town occasionally. I know who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's. Why did they bring Edwin in full time?
Why would Edwin want to do that? He's made tons of money. Why would he want to go through this every single day?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's doing the Vladdy thing. That's basically a family member. They basically live right across the street. Yeah, I know that. So it's like again, you just can't continue. It's like it can't be Groundhog Day. You can't go out and sort of blow up your 26-man roster and then bring the same voices back. And you just can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. So maybe this front office thinks it can do that. I don't think it can. That's just me. I think you've seen a big enough sample size of the adjustments not being made quick enough. And I bring it back to the Springer thing.
And the slumps too, man.
Yeah, it's forever. And I was digging into that today, and it's depressing. Like you look at how long slumps last for the Blue Jays. It's embarrassing. Look at that. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry. I know pitching's never been better, and league average is what I looked that up, 243. There's like 2 dudes that are hitting above 243 for the Blue Jays. They're not even close to league average. And when they go in slumps, it's like 12 for 100.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing. That for me, there's no excuse for it, and it's time. Like there has to be a little bit of that. The bar's set here. There's no more of this. Well, he's a good defender and he can run. He can go first to third. Yeah, who cares anymore? Like it's about having that productive, tough at bat against a good pitcher who can't get me out the same exact way over and over and over and over again because, quite frankly, me and 17 hitting coaches can't make an adjustment quick enough. That's not where they're at as an organization. That's what I said about the blueprint. Like they know it's right in front of you. You've got a big enough sample size. You've seen it with your own eyes. You don't need a khaki coming up and tell you that. You've seen it play out. So hopefully that's the way they do it and they get it done. And because, again, you can, because of those 3 wild cards, it's not like you have to blow this thing up and never be a playoff team again for the next 7 years. You don't have to do that.
7:07 will be the first pitch tonight as the Jays take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Sean Armstrong against Jose Brios. The Rays are the very definition of a 500 team. They've been at 500 23 different times this season.
Really?
They've been at 500
That's crazy.
23 different times this season.
Yeah.
They're 1550 right now. They are at 500. Brian Anderson is a Rays TV analyst. He'll join us next. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet. All right, we are back. What are you laughing at? You're the one doing the dance.
Yeah. I'm in a decent mood today.
What?
I'm in a decent mood today.
Yeah, you weren't yesterday.
No. A couple of them train rides.
Why are you in a better mood today?
I don't have a reason.
Because I got baseball tonight.
That helps.
And you know another reason?
Why?
Because we're doing Blue Jays talk following the game
it's okay.
tonight.
I don't mind that. I think Barrios is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
I think Springer or Vladdy will hit a homer, which are a lot of fun to watch.
Somebody on the Rays will hit a homer.
Well, yeah, Barrios is going to throw a slurve down the
Rays
middle.
have homered in 13 consecutive games against the Blue Jays.
Really?
I just was walking into that.
Mm.
Jeff Passan joins us at 5 o'clock. He is ESPN's MLB insider. I sent out a link. I was going to say I tweeted out a link, but of course it's no longer. But I guess I can still tweet. And, I sent out a link to his latest article. 2024 MLB trade deadline preview. Tick, tick, tick. It is a week from today. A week from today, we'll have a special show. Like 2.5 hours or some such thing.
Wow.
The Jays are in Baltimore.
What if the Jays don't do anything?
It's going to be a quality 2.5 hours regardless. I mean, if it's like the hockey deadline, it's going to happen. The Jays are going to make all their moves in the next 4 days, right? And we're going to end up
Or they're not going to do anything.
No, they'll make some moves. I mean, they'll make some moves.
They'll trade Yusei and Jimmy Garcia.
Yeah.
Those are the two for sure, I believe.
I don't know about Danny Jansen. I mean, someone's got to catch. Let's bring in Brian Anderson. He is the Rays TV analyst, a former MLB pitcher. What'd you say?
He's our favorite.
He is our favorite.
Yeah.
How you doing, Brian? Welcome.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Nothing, fellas. It's been a minute since we've talked.
It has been. I mean, the schedule, man. It's like we hardly ever see the Rays, which is odd because the Jays are in last place in the East, and you'd think that would mean they played the Rays about 150 times, given the way things go. Hey, this is 23. Now, I had to check this, but the Rays have been at 500 23 different times. How do you do that?
Because you're a 500 team.
Well, there you go.
So you win a couple to go up to, then you lose a couple to get back. It's been remarkable. Just how. I mean, the old Bill Parcells. You are what your record says it is. That's the Rays. It's remarkable. They'll play 3 or 4 games where you look like it feels like they're starting to come out of it, and then all of a sudden 3 or 4. Then they go to Texas and get swept. They go to Yankee Stadium for a 4-game series. This past, we had the wraparound series. So you go there for a 4-game series. Game 1, it looks like the Rays were still on break. Like, it was one of the sloppiest games I've seen them play in a long, long time. They get blown out. They bounce back on Saturday and Sunday and absolutely pummel the Yankees. They hit 4 home runs in each game and just blast them, and then roll out yesterday and get beat 9-1. They have been all over the map, and sitting at 50-50 is right where they deserve to be right now. That's just who they've been. We haven't seen a Rays team like that in a long time. And they're showing signs. The pitching, the pitching wasn't great yesterday, obviously. But overall, the starters have been doing a pretty good job. The bullpen has kind of fortified itself. The problem with the offense is, they haven't hit a ton of home runs, same kind of a problem that Toronto has had, but they haven't come through in the clutch either. The Rays, I think, at this point have the 4th most at-bats with runners in scoring position. So they're getting opportunities. They are putting runners in scoring position, and they have those opportunities. But right now, the batting average with risk is the 2nd worst. I think only the White Sox are worse. in the American League. So, they give themselves the opportunities, but they just have not been able to come through. And so they're not scoring runs. That puts pressure on the pitching staff. And, sometimes they can cover it, sometimes they can't. That's why they're a 50-50 team right now.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Their last 7 games, they've had 52 runners in scoring position. They've gone 4 for 52. So basically they're averaging, almost 8 runners in scoring position per game, and they've only cashed in 4 of them. Hey, is there any update on Yandy Diaz?
Nothing. I know that the team is being pretty tight-lipped about it, but I have not heard any updates. I don't know if they're even in communication. I really don't have any idea. I don't think anybody really does, other than what the team has said, a personal family matter. You do find it interesting, I think, to say the least, that they put him on the restricted list, and so that's costing him $43,000 a day. So, you just wonder how this is all going to play out, because when you're docking a guy's pay, it'll be interesting to see when he comes back and if there's any fallout, when he finally ends up coming back. But right now it has been crickets on this end.
BA, just a 2-part question. Are the Rays going to be sellers at the deadline? Maybe a Paredes, maybe a Rosarena, maybe a Siri. One of the everyday guys I would think maybe they trade. And the second part of that question is, how do they fix 22nd in starters innings pitched and 8th in relievers innings pitched? I would think if the Rays want to get back to being the big bad bullies on the block, they got to adjust those 2 numbers a little bit better. How do they fix that?
Well, you've got to get your guys back that can get you deep into games. And I know that right now, they've been trying to piecemeal their rotation without Jeffrey Springs, without Drew Rasmussen, which, by the way, both are out on rehab assignments. Drew, I think, threw the other day for the first time, and without Shane McClanahan. And then you end up trading, Tyler Glasnow, who was hurt an awful lot with the Rays, and so they just never put that together innings wise, and it's been by design too, quite frankly. I mean, you've seen it over the years with all the openers, like they're doing tonight. They're going to Sean Armstrong's going to start. He's going to go an inning or 2 and turn it over to Tyler Alexander, and hope he can repeat the magic that he had the last time that he pitched here. And so a lot of that has been by design, and I think that their bullpen has led at least the American League in innings pitched the last couple of years.
It has.
Or real close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just one of those things that has been kind of their MO, but you're right. You're starting to see some of these teams now start to lean on their starters a little bit more and say, hey, listen, let's go out there and let these guys get deeper into a game. But I think that you have to have your horses, or the guys that you consider horses, and right now they don't have that, and so they are just trying to piecemeal. Listen, I think a lot of times the analytics and the metrics play into that.
Absolutely.
We've all seen games on your end and on my end where our guy is out there absolutely dealing. We had a start early this year from Aaron Savali before they ended up trading him. He went out there and it was either 5 shutout or 5 and a couple of hits and 1 run, was really in no trouble whatsoever, 68 pitches, and they got him out of there. And when you see those games, you immediately say to yourself, if you know the game of baseball, that decision was made at about 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's not a decision that you're making on what you are watching. This was already decided upon. And I think there's a lot of that in the game right now. And sometimes it makes for, it's frustrating to watch because you're like, are you kidding me? 5 innings, 68 pitches. The guy is flat out dealing, and we're pulling him. Why? 5 innings, 98 pitches. Okay, we can talk. 68 dealing. Yeah, that decision was made long before this game started.
BA, I never thought I'd see you picking on the Underground City. Oh, boy, you've been on this show a bazillion times.
Not really
I thought I was the only person.
No, he's not picking on it.
He did that.
He's observing.
Yes.
Merely observing.
Hey, BA, any chance they trade a person like Paredes? I mean, quite frankly, that dude can hit. And there's some teams like the Mariners, come a-calling. Any chance the Rays would be sellers at the deadline?
I would never say never, but I can also envision the Rays being a team that tries to play both sides of the fence because they've already kind of done it. So they end up trading Aaron Savali. It saves them some money. Oh, they have Shane Boz they can plug right in. So they make that move. Phil Maton, he's making some money. You know what I mean? We trade, Phil Maton. We've got Edwin Usita and Manny Rodriguez, two young relievers that have a lot of promise to plug right in. So I could see that. You could envision them trading a Zach Eflin because here comes Jeffrey Springs. He's going to be back in a week or two. So I could see them trying to play it both ways. Position player wise, I don't know. I mean, I know that Randy Rosarena has inquired, like, are they going to trade me? And I mean, he's wondering about it. I'm sure certain guys are concern's not the right word, but they're definitely interested in getting a feel on if they may be on the block. But I wouldn't think so. But at the same time, if it came out, midway through the game that they ended up making that deal, you'd be like, well, okay, that's what they do. They will surprise you. They're going to have to get what they want for them. But I think that their ears are going to be open on just about everybody on the roster.
One of the guys that I think is it's kind of very quietly, and again, this is from a distance, but one of the guys that seems to very, very quietly have emerged here and maybe freed the hands of Rays management a little bit is Taj Bradley. I mean, it seems like he is. Yeah. You talk about guys who've stepped up. He's a guy they've waited for a while, and it seems like he's cashing in on that now, doesn't it? He looks really good.
Yeah. No, this guy, I'll tell you what. The first thing that you noticed about him, his first start, was his mound presence, his demeanor. He was in charge of the mound. He was in charge of himself. Too often last year, he's got great stuff, but he would go out there and something would go against him, or there would be an error and then a base hit, or a walk and then a bloop hit. And the next thing you know, he's giving up 4 runs and he's sitting on the bench. You're like, how did that just spiral out of control so quickly? It was like the game would speed up on him a little bit. And I know that he did a lot of mental work in trying to make himself mentally tougher in the offseason, continued to refine his stuff. And the first start that he made this year for the Rays, you're like, oh, this mound presence is different. His demeanor on the mound is different. When he got into trouble and things didn't go his way, you could see him almost tangibly take the deep breath and not let the innings spiral out of control. And he did that for a while, and then he had a start back on, I think it was June the 1st, and it was in Baltimore, and he gave up 9 earned and 3 1/3. They popped him pretty good, gave up a bunch of homers, and they got him good. So his next start, I think it was the 8th, whatever, off days or whatever, his next start is at Tropicana Field against Baltimore. So you're facing the same team that just tore you up in your previous start. And he went out there that start, and his first, I guess, maybe 8 or 9 pitches were, 7 out of 8, 8 out of 9 were fastballs. And they were fastballs with mean intentions. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, all you guys, here I come, okay? If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down fighting. And he came right after them. He went 5 innings in that game and gave up an earned run, and he has just rolled that over into, the starts that have come after that. And so he's on a run right now where, I guess it would be 7 starts now, and he's given up 42, 49. Yeah, so he's given up 5 earned runs in the last 49 innings. He's got the lowest ERA from June 8th to this point. He was battling with Paul Skeens, and he went 7 shutout his last time. So his ERA is sub-1 over his last, 8 starts now, covering 49 innings. So he's getting deep. He's giving up nothing. His pitches, the fastball has been setting the tone. He uses his cutter like a really, really hard slider. It is absolutely filthy. His split might be better than that. And he's got a pretty good curveball, but he doesn't even really have time to get to it. He only uses it like 9% of the time, and it is a real true 12-6 curveball. But listen, between the heater, the cutter, it's a hard slider, and his split, he never gets to it. It's the 4th pitch. It's the pitch that, let me roll that in there for strike 1 against a left-handed hitter. That's kind of what he's doing, and he has been beyond impressive, and there's nothing fluky about it. The numbers he's as dominant as those numbers say he's been.
Yeah, you just mentioned Bradley. Is there another name going forward here in the last, 60-ish games towards the end of the season that if you're not a Rays fan, you can tune in and say, I want to watch that guy play because he's a really good player? Is there that name that people should pay attention to?
Well, he was starting to hit his stride, and I really like the kid, really like his stuff. He's on the IL right now with a knee infection. But Ryan Pepio, Ryan Pepio has one of the most effective fastballs. He's got a four-seam fastball that averages 94.5 in that range, maybe 95. By today's standards, it's not like blowing you out of the water, but it's a good fastball. But you look at the numbers against that fastball, he gives up nothing. I mean, the average is in the low 100s on a four-seam fastball. Oh, by the way, he throws it 52% of the time. So it's not like he hides that pitch. That pitch leads the way, and it doesn't get touched. It's a special pitch because he gets a ton of extension towards home plate, almost 7 feet, where he's almost jumping at the plate. So the velocity plays up with that perceived velocity. He gets a good amount of carry on that pitch. And to complement, he's got a slider that sometimes stays a little too flat, and he's got a changeup that he would get underneath an awful lot, and it would get hit. Well, we had talked about his changeup because I'm like, look, if your fastball is as good as it is, that and you throw it over 50% of the time, hitters have to account for that pitch. They're going to get it a ton, and you have a ton of success with it. If that's the case, your changeup should be just as effective. It should be the perfect foil for everybody that's trying to do something about that fastball. And when you get on top of it, when he gets on top of it, it is a special pitch. And so his last 2 or 3 starts, he has done a great job of getting on top of that changeup. He had a start maybe two starts ago where I think it was against the Yankees. 13 of his 17 outs recorded were on the changeup between strikeouts and ground balls. It was crazy. That pitch was just special. And so you started to see him start to look like Taj Bradley, where he goes out there with that fastball and that changeup, and then here comes the slider and could start to dominate. And all of a sudden now he's got this knee infection, and I think that he's going to be released from the hospital. I think it was maybe yesterday, fly back to Tampa. He's doing great, and he'll come off the IL when he's ready to come off. Not ready, but when he's eligible to come off. But he was a guy that was getting really, really fun to watch because, he's a good athlete. He's a high energy guy. A lot of fun to watch, out there on the mound.
Mm-hmm. BA, last question before we let you run. We know that it seems at least as if the Rays have cleared a pretty big hurdle in terms of getting their new ballpark built. I think there's one more vote of consequence. I'm just wondering if, given the fact that it appears as if things are lining up for the Rays and Rays ownership, is that, do you think, going to change in the immediate future, how they go about doing business?
That's a wonderful question, and I do not know the answer to that. I know this year they're probably $20 million in payroll over where they would like to be, where they've been in the past. So they certainly have gone out and spent more this year. Now they've pared some of that back by trading, Savali, by trading Phil Maton, who they'd given a lot of money to pitch out of that pen, at least by Rays standards. But that's what you don't know. Right. And so I think that I'm kind of sitting with you. How are they going to play this out? Because, it does look like, I think that the vote that went in their favor this first go round, that was the vote they were concerned about. And so the mindset, I think, around the team was if that vote, if council passes it, then the next vote's just going to be a rubber stamp. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the feeling around the team is it's going to be a done deal. That this vote at the end of the month is going to be just the rubber stamping of the money that Pinellas County is going to kick in, and then then it's getting shovels in the ground next spring. So that being said, who knows? Who knows how they're going to handle all this? Who knows what's going to happen with the Wander Franco situation? Right? How's that going to resolve itself? I mean, there are a lot of questions that I wish I knew the answers. I've said this a million times. I've probably said it on your show more times than you care to hear. But just when you figure, or just when you start to think that you have figured this team out and how they do things, wrong answer. They're going to maneuver. They're going to jag a little bit, and you're going to be like, wow, I thought I had them. You never know with them.
Brian, we're going to let you run, awesome, man. We'll see you down at the park. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, boys. Anytime. Have a blast.
Thank you. See you.
Brian Anderson, Rays analyst. And, the Rays are that park looks like it's going to get done, which is is good. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
surprised they're not going to Tampa, but
At least they're getting a new one.
yeah,
That's all that matters.
I mean, I like that.
Me too.
I like
It's
St.
about time.
Yeah,
Just need a new park. They need, it's time.
and
It's time.
but it is interesting. Taj Bradley, by the way, we'll see him on Friday. It'll be Zach Eflin pitching on not on Friday. Sorry, Zach Eflin pitching tomorrow, and Taj Bradley will pitch on Thursday. That's an afternoon game as he takes on Chris Bassett. And he's. Have you caught any of him pitching? Taj Bradley?
Yeah.
He looks the part, man.
Yeah. Look, I think going forward, they're in good hands. I wonder if they can continue. And that is the Rays, and this is what they do,
Sure.
and the openers, and that's sort of why you see the innings.
Wouldn't you want to hang on to Rosarena too if you were them? Here's the thing: as BA was talking, I didn't realize this, but Randy, and maybe this gets to what we talked about with Alex Anthopoulos, saying when you look to add a player, you look to add somebody who's on the up, who's on the up.
Sure.
He's been one of the 15 best hitters in baseball since the start of June.
I can just remember the 15 team too with the Blue Jays. They had attitude. He brings it for the Rays. I know it's the pitching and the defense and the underground city, and it's just sort of the theme of when you go play them, what you have to deal with. And then you add to the mix him with the cowboy boots, taking batting practice. It's just like he just brings a whole different element. Now, you mentioned the way he's turned the corner a little bit offensively, and he's starting to hit more homers. And I don't know. I don't know if he's the right guy. Paredes is a guy, I think, if you're another team like the Mariners, that is looking for a corner guy who can hit in the middle of the order, who's a run producer, who really, quite frankly, nobody's ever heard of. Right there.
So Sean Armstrong is going to get the start tonight. He's going to open. Taylor Alexander that is coming in, I believe, after him. That kid that did he not have a no-hitter or a perfect game going against the Jays the last time he saw him?
There you go.
What could go wrong?
I think they're getting a different Springer. They're getting a different Vladdy. They're getting Horowitz, who's different. And then there's everybody else.
Yep.
Like, everybody else is not different. But the first three guys, you seem to like, and you're going to tune in, and they're going to give you some at-bats, and they're going to hopefully force the ball in the middle of the plate. And, Armstrong hasn't been real good. You force him on the plate, keep the two-seamer, get it in the zone that you like it, you'll have a decent chance of hitting the ball hard. So,
it is the Rays, that is remarkable. I mean, I knew that they were kind of like up and down, but my God, 23 games, 23 times hitting the 500 mark.
If you're the front office, I would think that would be very hard to read your team. It's either you could very easily read it.
Yes.
Or you could really be on the fence of, man, if we went out and added a couple pieces, they're not, they're thinking maybe we're better in Kansas City. Like, right? You make a decent run, you get our pitching back, you get healthy, because they're pitching and defense and inventing ways to beat teams that are not as good as you are. So, and then they start hitting a few more homers. That's what it's all about, right? It's the hitting homers and keeping the other team from hitting them.
We kind of forgot that the past couple of years, the Rays have actually become more of an offensive team. Like, we think of them as, they're going to run the bases and play good defense, and they've got good pitching. The Rays, they've become an offensive team in the past couple of years.
Yeah, but they've been giving up I think they've given up the second most home runs behind, yours truly, your team.
Yes.
Yeah, the Blue Jays. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Your team, when they're giving up that many homers, it's your team. Yeah. So, it's intriguing. I can't wait to see what the trade deadline gives.
Jeff Passan is ESPN's MLB insider.
Speak of the devil.
His latest on ESPN.com is the 2024 MLB trade deadline preview. He sees the Jays as, quote, subtracting, but not complete. Sounds to me like being a little bit pregnant. If you can do that. We'll find out what Passan says. He joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sports. Hey, we're back.
You fix your thing there, Slick.
What?
Look how it's all crooked.
Oh, it's just a headset.
Man, it looks awful. I remember the first time I put that on.
You talk while I fix it.
Well,
talk.
Well, they're watching you. It's more fun watching you try and figure that out. Yeah, there you go. Throw the camera back on him.
There you go.
There it is.
Not that big a deal.
2 plus 2 is what?
We got tickets to give away to see
Man.
the
What'd you do without me?
Jays and Rangers on Friday. It's a good trivia question.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. One of my favorite
You know, I
Jays of
faced
all
him.
time.
You know, I faced
He
him.
is
And,
one of my favorite Jays of all time.
Hey, when he was a Vol, I faced him. I didn't give it away.
You did?
Yeah. He had the member that cost him all the money when his shoulder was higher than the
His
other.
kid's like some big
Big time.
big deal.
Absolutely.
Tight end, right?
Yeah.
I think. Anyhow, we'll give away the.
That's when Todd Helton was in the that's what it was called, Hokey Smokey Classic. I played in that. And the only thing I remember about that thing is Todd Helton, the Hall of Famer, ran the catcher over at home plate. That's the only thing I remember.
Okay.
And I know benches sort of got up, and I was nowhere to be found.
Of course not. You, like I said, I know about you as a teammate.
Yeah. No chance.
Yeah. You were like the worst teammate ever.
No.
Yeah, you were.
No, was not.
Bringing
It was
Jeff
like,
Passan,
you want to do
ESPN's
something dumb?
MLB.
Good luck.
No, Passan, how are you? We're just talking about Barker's glory days as a member of the Hokies.
Yeah.
And,
Hokey Smokey Classic.
I don't feel like he would be the worst teammate ever.
No chance. I was a great teammate.
Oh, listen, all you hear, I mean, the Sean Casey story about the guy coming up then when he sat down, when he was sent down.
He made that
Which
up.
guy do I have to look out for in AAA in case he said, I'll stay away from that Barker guy, man. He's a sour old guy.
I was there for 8 years. Like, what do you guys want from me?
Anyhow.
I mean, that would make anybody mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, by the 7th year, you're exactly right.
Watch out.
He'll
He'll steal your bat. He'll just take your bat when you're not looking.
It's got any hits in it? See ya.
Hey, great. We posted a link to your article on ESPN.com, the trade deadline preview. And as per usual, Mr. Passan, it is all inclusive. And you have the Jays as subtracting, but not completely, which is actually kind of the way I was trying to describe them the past couple of days, but wasn't able to. It's not that they're in a holding pattern, but it's almost as if, you get the sense that they really, and this is, I know you've talked to people around Major League Baseball, I'm getting the sense that people think they really, 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 really want to run it back one more time, don't they?
Yep. And those people with whom I'm talking wonder why.
Yeah.
I'm in that camp.
And I think there are a lot of people in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the argument is sound for why you do it now. Let's look at the American League East. You've got a Baltimore team that is playing .600 baseball right now, and in future years is only going to get better, and has just gotten an owner who's actually going to spend money. Mm-hmm. You've got the Yankees. I don't care where they are. The Yankees are never going to allow themselves to be bad. The Yankees, you can more or less bank on 80-plus wins every season, and probably half those seasons it's going to be 90-plus. Boston's got the record that I think the Jays hoped that they would have this year at this point. And they're doing so on a lower payroll and with Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, Kyle Teal, and Christian Campbell on the cusp of the big leagues. So they have a really good young core coming up. And Tampa Bay is getting Drew Rasmussen and Jeffrey Springs back from elbow surgery this year. They are getting Shane McClanahan, who has started an all-star game, back before next year. I don't know if you guys have seen Taj Bradley this year at all.
Yeah, we just talked to Brian Anderson about him, and I caught a couple of his starts, and we were raving about him. He's pretty good.
He's really good.
Yeah.
And that's not to mention a number of other guys that they have both on the big league roster right now and in the minor leagues. And so the landscape for any team that is competing in a division with the four of them is kind of grim. Now you're telling me you're going to bring back the same team that has terminally underachieved?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to do so in an environment where there are teams that are desperate right now for a slugging first baseman. The notion that you could get the Seattle Mariners involved in a bidding war for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right now, when they have the very types of prospects, both hitting and pitching, that you covet as an organization, maybe the tack that the Jays are taking publicly is one of more honesty and forthrightness than what other organizations do, which is say we'll listen on anyone when they really have no intention of listening. But I really am curious if a Godfather offer came in for Vladimir Guerrero right now, what the Jays would say. Because I have heard no indication that they're interested at all in even talking about him. I did hear earlier this week Bo Bichette's name, saying, they haven't completely closed the door on that, but then he got hurt. So the door itself closed. And that leaves us where we are now, with the Jays being a popular team at the deadline. But the reality is, if you are trading only impending free agents, you're not going to get a whole lot back, and you're going to have to do an incredible job of choosing the right guys to make any of these deals worth a damn.
Yeah, I've been sort of telling people that to kind of be prepared for it. I think back to the Teoscar Hernandez deal when it was made, when it was Francisco Liriano to Houston for, at the time, it was Aoki and Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar Hernandez was the and. And I think that's almost the best case scenario here with these guys. But I also wanted to, because I'm not completely familiar with their situation, other than I know that they have Luis Castillo. But it seems to me the Reds in 2022 did a nice job, not just in terms of quality, but also in quantity. Like, they brought in some guys deep in the farm system, but also helped at the major league level. Again, I know the Jays don't have Luis Castillo to be the guy that's the focal point of that. But is that the type of thing you think they'd be kind of aiming for? Getting some guys in who might be double-A guys, a year, 2 years away from the majors?
I don't know that that's an unreasonable thing to do. But I'll just I look at their long-term commitments right now, and how many of these contracts, if you could do it over again, would you actually say, yep, that's someone who I want long-term? Barrios? Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Predictable.
Gausman?
At the time, yeah, he was my 1 or 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I still think if they moved Gausman, they'd actually get some decent returns. Springer, clearly, but man, after 2025, especially if Vlad and Bo leave, cupboard's kind of bare, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Jeff, why couldn't you do both? Why couldn't you sign Vladdy, trade Bo in the offseason, buy you a bullpen, get it close to one of the best bullpens in baseball? You've mastered the outfield defense, which is a big deal because everybody's trying to hit the ball in the air. You understand blueprint on how to pay for good starting pitching. If Pete Walker's still around, he's pretty good at figuring all that out. You figure you're still in the camp with the Twins, the Royals, the Mariners, the Rangers. I take my chances with the Red Sox and the Rays for one of them 3 spots. I think you can do both. But the fact of the matter is, you can't get rid of both, for me, Bo and Vladdy. It seems like the Bo ship has left the port. Bo just don't seem like he wants to have it. Now, again, I'm not speaking for him. It's just body language and conversations outside of the organization with other teams and other people who want to stick a microphone in his face. Sounds like he doesn't want to have any part. I just think you can do it without blowing it up and be non-existent for the next 2 or 3 years.
It's a real thin needle to thread, man. It's going to be a hard. I don't disagree with you. I think it can be done. I think the fact that the Kansas City Royals won 56 games last year all season and that they just won their 56th game on July 22nd shows that one-year turnarounds, if the right moves are made, are extremely realistic. But I think the flaw in your premise is let's buy us a bullpen.
Yeah.
Relief costs money. And beyond that, it is so volatile year over year. And that's always my issue with going out and spending money on relief pitching or trade capital for relief pitching. There are very, very few guys, Kevin, and you know this, very, very few relievers who year over year over year are excellent. And so I worry that the volatility of the production at the position itself is going to be a hindrance and going to be problematic in trying to build this thing up, because putting a bullpen together, man, it's a harder thing to do than I think people appreciate.
Yeah, it's fair.
Jeff, one of the teams that I'm really I can't believe I'm saying this at a trade deadline, but I'm really fascinated with is the Pittsburgh Pirates. What do they now?
Me too.
3.5 out or whatever. They've got.
If they win tonight, they're tied with the Cardinals, and I believe they're in one of the wild card spots.
Yeah. So, what could you see them doing? Well, first of all, what is the state of? I understand Paul Skeens there, but is their minor league system still deep enough that they might be able to bolster the team? Because it seems to me this is, given where St. Louis has kind of been up and down, like given all the stuff going on in that division with Chicago and everything, man, if I'm the Pirates, this is a good chance here to put something together.
Yeah, it's not a great system. If they had bats, they'd be in the big leagues right now. You know,
yeah.
They whether it's Bubba Chandler or Braxton Ashcraft, they've got some pitching. But they're everyday guys down in the minor leagues. Even Tamar Johnson, who they took at the top of the draft, good bat, but he's still a while away. And so it's going to be interesting to see how exactly they go about this, because I think the Pirates feel like they can develop enough pitching where you could see a back end starter like Bailey Falter move, but at the same time, you got to add bats, and there just are not a lot of bats out there, and it's another reason why pushing to sell while you can, and while this market is the way that it is, would behoove the Jays, I think, more than they probably want to admit or recognize. Pittsburgh's going to do something. I just don't know if it's going to be major enough to shift the tide, but they're getting Jared Jones back off the injured list soon. They have Skeens, Mitch Keller, all pitching really well, and they're an interesting little team to watch. Brian Reynolds is having a big, like a very quiet, huge year, and they needed that because he had not been quite to the level of the contract that he signed over the previous couple of seasons.
Because of how good the Phillies are, how much do you think the Braves will do at the deadline?
It's a good question, because I think that's the context through which you have to see it, right? Like, okay, we're good, but is this the year to push? And with Ronald Acuna Jr., Spencer Strider out for the season, Ozzie Albies essentially out for the rest of the regular season. They're just banged up, man. And I think they're going to add, but it is not going to be a particularly substantive add. Maybe they go get Lane Thomas from the Nationals, or another outfielder who can play sort of across the outfield spectrum, while Michael Harris, by the way, is still on the injured list. But going out there and making a move so you can win another World Series. I mean, did any of us think that getting Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, and Jock Peterson was a World Series winning series of moves? No, of course not, because it wasn't. But baseball's stupid, and you can go out and get the best player at the deadline and lose in the first round, and you can go out and make a bunch of ancillary moves that turn out to be that special ingredient in the secret sauce that gets you the championship. You just don't know. And so unless you have, like, I could see the Phillies going out and making a really big move because they should feel like this is our year.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is suggesting it, right? Like, if I'm picking a World Series winner today, I'm picking Philadelphia because I think they are that much better than everyone else. But with the Orioles, for example, they're in the mix, and I don't know that at this point they feel like it's worth it to push with this team that they've got right now because chances are they're going to have even better versions of this going forward.
Yeah, who makes the bigger splash, Astros or Rangers?
I think they're going in the opposite directions. I think the Rangers are probably leaning towards selling at this point.
Yeah,
like which is wild to think about because they won a World Series last year, and you don't tend to follow that with selling at the deadline. And the Astros, on the other hand, feel like the American League West is theirs to have because I don't know if you've seen Seattle hit, but Kevin. That version of you that spent 7 years in AAA would fit in great in that lineup now.
Right. Clean up.
There you had it. Yeah. We had Brett Boone on, and it was funny because he was talking about how much they missed Teoscar Hernandez. And I said, take a number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And you know what? I don't think guys like Teoscar Hernandez are appreciated enough.
Nope.
Even in the years where he wasn't an all-star or wasn't the guy who, looked like he warranted the spot hitting cleanup in the lineup, he was still a really good player. You're always it's a high floor guy. It's not the highest ceiling guy, but it's a real high floor guy. And consistency is one of those things where we gravitate towards shiny objects. When it turns out the well-built, well-manufactured, consistent product is something that makes us happy every single day. And that's what Teoscar Hernandez was. He was a guy who you were just happy to have in that lineup because you felt like he was a representative major league player.
You don't know what you got till it's gone, Jeff. Isn't that the saying?
I think somebody wrote a song about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. I try not to lose things. So I
Hey, you made. I
try not to give away things that are good.
Yeah,
but we all make mistakes, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, that was a big mistake. American League MVP. That is going to be a race and a half, isn't it?
That's an easy one for me.
Pardon me?
Yeah, it is.
Who is it?
The dude that plays center in New York. That's an easy one. Yeah. It's the one in the National League that's the tough one.
Wow.
That's the hard one.
I'm actually, Jeff, I'm actually with Kevin on this right now, and I say this from the seat of the upstart. I see Bobby Witt Jr. all the time. He is a magnificent baseball player, and he is, the year Vladdy finished second in the MVP. Like Bobby Witt is having one of those types of seasons where, if not for, then, he would be an MVP. And the two biggest, if not fors in baseball are Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. So right now, even if Witt does lead by 1/10 of a point and wins above replacement, Judge is he's just on a different level than everyone. It's kind of absurd watching him hit just because he could deposit a ball 475 feet away and you just would not be shocked. Like every swing he takes, it's almost like there's an anticipation that the ball is going to go flying into the night.
The only thing I wonder is, I think he's the guy. But if Kansas City goes on a bit of a run here and becomes and they are a good story, but becomes an even better story, and Bobby Witt Jr. continues to do what he's doing, I don't know.
Yeah.
shortstop putting up those offensive numbers, I think a lot of people might skew towards him. I think it'll be, put it this way, point-wise, I think it's probably going to be, it could be closer than people think it is.
Unless the big boy hits 30 in the next 60 games.
Well, not just that, by the way. It's an exceptional shortstop.
Yes.
And he is the fastest player in the major leagues. And so this is the splendor of Bobby Witt is not just that the guy is a good hitter. It's that he is a great baseball player in every facet of the game. He is intelligent. He is driven. He is everything you want in a franchise player. And look, I'm spoiled in Kansas City because I get to see Patrick Mahomes in person. And, you want to talk about like a show. It's every time that guy's on the field, it's a show. Bobby Witt Jr. is not on that level yet, but he's working his way toward it. And the fact that he's only 24 years old is the best part because he's going to be like this for a while.
What do you think? Hold on. Well, I can't let you go before I ask you, what do you think Bryce Harper would have to do to overtake Ohtani? That's the only name, right? It's not Freddie Freeman. It's not Ozuna. It would be Bryce Harper. But you got to look at records, where the Phillies would be, how much Bryce would play. Like all of that would come into play. Going into you would think the Phillies would want the best record in the National League. Like it would all matter. What do you think he'd have to do?
When I don't vote for MVP anymore. When I did vote for MVP, though, I didn't pay attention to the team and to the record. And I know it kind of goes against the idea of most valuable player. It's like most valuable to what then? How valuable can you be if your team sucks? But I felt like I didn't want to penalize a player for his teammates' weaknesses. I didn't think that was fair for an individual award. So, yeah, Bryce Harper is probably – I don't think Ketel Marte is going to get a whole lot of love. Ellie De La Cruz is awesome to watch, and I think he might be the most – I'll tell you guys a great story. Do we have time for something?
Sure, absolutely.
We'll make time.
At the All-Star game, and I get to do these on-camera interviews with a couple of guys, and this year we got Freddie Freeman, Juan Soto, and Ellie De La Cruz. And Ellie has been like diligently trying to learn English. It's really impressive, actually, and has gotten good enough at it that most of the conversation that we had was in English. And I asked him a question. I said, who's the most electrifying player in baseball? And he is extremely soft-spoken. And he said something, and I didn't understand it. And I just thought he was speaking in Spanish. And so I said to him, like, can you repeat that? And I hear him this time, and it's in English. And he says, you're sitting across from him. I was like, that's badass right there. That is like, know thyself. And he certainly knows, like he is. And I just thought that was such a cool, like in the definition of the word, like what's a cool thing to do. That's cool right there.
That is tremendous. I was talking to Frank Robinson one day in his office. I think I told you the story, Kevin. Actually, Jack Etkin covered the Rockies, was there. He was spring training, and he was going around the camps in Florida. And we started talking about Vladdy, and like an idiot, because I usually like asking these questions, but I said to Frank, is Vladdy the best hitter you've ever managed? He said, nah. And I thought, oh, okay, who was? And he pointed to himself. And I always had that image of, and then he just kind of shrugged, and I said,
couldn't argue.
It could not argue.
The man wasn't wrong.
He was not wrong at all. Mr. Passan, thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks, buddy.
See you later.
Always a pleasure, boys.
See you later. Jeff Passan, ESPN MLB insider. Ellie De La Cruz. Did you see that him the other night? Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
See him score standing up.
Yeah, I just wonder about his size and all the sliding he does. That's the one thing you worry about.
He scored standing up
Yeah,
with a play at the plate. Everybody else would have slid head first.
All the sliding he does because of his size is just how long can you do that?
Before we go to our trivia question, last night you saw the thing with Bobby Witt Jr.
Oh, getting hit.
He's a single away from the cycle, gets hit. Did you see the whole thing with Torey Lovello? So you saw that Sal Perez is on deck and he's chirping.
Yeah.
Well, they're not happy.
They thought he did it on purpose.
Torey Lovello comes out to talk to the home plate umpire. It's Jordan Baker. And then he calls Salvador Perez over.
Yeah.
Lovello does, because he wants Sal Perez to hear that he's saying, do you think that I would have my dude intentionally throw, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then Matt Quattrero, the Royals manager, comes out, and it's a big thing. And I remember, I don't know if I've seen a manager, and I know what he was doing. I know what he's not showing up, Sal Perez, but he's saying, come here, I want you to hear this.
Yeah, it's respect for the players. That's what it is.
But man, and then I don't know if I've seen another a manager call a player from the other team over.
Yeah.
That bother you if you were Sal Perez?
No, I don't think so. I think Sal was pretty hot because of who they hit and what that player was trying to do.
You don't see that very often, though.
I've never seen that. Never. I don't even know if I'd win or not. I might have had a nice little gesture for him.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's the heat of the moment. I think the Royals are finally relevant again, which is a big deal. I think it's a big deal for baseball. It's like one of the little engines who are trying to spend money on one of the best players in baseball.
Absolutely.
And you got one of the best catchers, most respected, people behind the plate in baseball. I just like that. I like that they're trying to be bullies and push people around and just be athletic and be just like wanting other people to watch them. Like I like that part of it.
We've had so many times, and actually, I'll just let producers know. We'll do the trivia on the other side because I want to say this. We've had so many times, or there have been so many times where teams sign players to long-term contracts, and it doesn't necessarily work out. And knock on wood here, and I know it's just the first year, but as a baseball fan, you gotta like seeing Bobby Witt Jr. sign that contract, commit himself to that team, and then go out and have an MVP caliber season in the first year of the contract.
Yeah, to me
is good for baseball.
I think they've done that with Sal Perez too. Guy catches, he hasn't dropped off. He's gotten better offensively, defensively.
24-year-old dude, you gave $20 million to.
Yeah.
And he's answering the bell.
I think sometimes it's easy to get out of some guy's way.
Maybe.
He's one of them dudes.
He's one of that.
I think that's what the Blue Jays are trying to find. Get out of the way. You don't have to always coach people.
7:07 will be the first pitch tonight.
I'm just saying.
It's hard to get out of the way when you got 15 people.
There's a lot of talk.
It's like if you go to one guy, get the hell out of the way. That's one thing. But if you got 14 guys, you 10, get the hell out of the way. Anyhow. 7:07 is the first pitch tonight. Ben Shulman will have the call of the game on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. He'll join us next. And I've got tickets to give away to see the Jays and Rangers as well. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet.
Push your button.
I got tickets to give away. It's Monday. No, it is.
Said something about Friday. And
I've got tickets to give away to see the Jays and Rangers this Friday. By the way, a week from today is the trade deadline. And we'll be on the air.
I could have said something funny.
What?
I like my job too much. I can't say what I was thinking to say.
Just because I mentioned trade deadline.
Yeah.
You're just,
frisky today.
Yeah. Anyhow. I've got tickets to give away to see what did I say? The Jays and Rangers. Yeah, at Rogers Center on Friday,
his show
July 26th. We've been giving you the chance to win Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Standard message. I was going to say standard massage, but standard message and data rates may apply. Our last question and answer was, after starting his major league career, playing 8 years in Tampa Bay, this player ended his career in Toronto in 2016 with a different first name. That was B.J. Upton, who later changed his name to Melvin Upton Jr.,
Yeah.
former teammate of Kevin Barker's.
Absolutely.
Today's question, I mentioned, is the win ticket to see the Jays and Rangers at the Rogers Centre on Friday, July 26th. He started his career in the AL West with the Rangers and Mariners, played 4 seasons in Toronto where he won a Gold Glove, but had his most successful season in the majors with the New York Mets. Again, he started his career in the AL West with the Rangers and Mariners, played 4 seasons in Toronto where he won a Gold Glove, but had his most successful season in the majors with the New York Mets, where he really knuckled down. Text the answer to 590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Standard massage and standard messaging and data rates may apply.
That's the worst read you've ever done. I know you didn't get this because you were in here guessing that for 7 minutes.
Let's bring in Ben Shulman from Z Ballpark. How you doing, Mr. Shulman?
Hey, look at him.
Okay, he's
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing well. You know, we're living the dream. A little week out from the trade deadline. Jose Barrios hasn't pitched in a what did we say?
13th.
July 13th. Any concerns about that at all on your part? What do you think? What would be? I mean, that's a lot of time to have off. What would be some red flags for you tonight about Jose Barrios?
I would say at least right now I'm not concerned. They've kind of made this a thing by design, they've said. I think that Barrios, we all saw, at least numbers-wise, was not pitching as well recently, and it's well documented how many innings he has thrown. Only Aaron Nola has thrown more innings than Jose Barrios over, I want to say, the last 7 seasons. So I think that they wanted to give him a little bit of extra rest with the fact that he just did not look as sharp over the last couple starts that he had. If he came out today and the breaking ball, which was specifically mentioned by John Schneider today, still didn't look very sharp, if he still wasn't getting as much swing and miss, then I think you're concerned. Because like you said, it's a long break that they gave him, and in theory one that should rejuvenate him a bit at least. And so if we don't see a little bit more sharp of a Jose Barrios, I think at that point it gets a little concerning.
Yeah, I think it's the velocity, right? The velocity's a little moody, and then he's trying to looks to me like anyway overthrow the slurve. When you do that, that will tell you he's compensating for something, and you hope it's okay. I wonder going forward here how John will handle some of the guys that they're trying to trade. Like we obviously know, and I brought this up to Jeff about even a guy like Jimmy Garcia, right? Is he going to abuse Jimmy the next 6 games? You know, somewhere around that couple of days before the trade deadline. Any rumble, I'm sure they're not going to tell you, but I would think they're going to sort of be careful with Jimmy and other guys that they're trying to trade, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he said that Garcia was not available for Sunday's game after pitching Saturday, which it's hard to know what that means because he was coming off an injury. So in one sense, you know, a lot of the time he would pitch back-to-back. In another sense, he's coming off an injury, and it's hard to tell. And they did say that they would use him back-to-back, but you don't really know, to be honest. And I lean that they'll at least somewhat keep guys in the right positions here. I don't know that you can dramatically change someone's value within a week, but at the same time, they want to keep people healthy for certain. No doubt about that. And I think keeping Jimmy healthy is very, very important. So with him specifically, it wouldn't shock me if they're a little bit cautious. But if you look at some other guys, I mean, they could have pulled Yusei Kikuchi earlier than they pulled Yusei Kikuchi in his last start, and they didn't. They left him out there, and that ended up burning him and the Blue Jays. So I don't think that they were trying to protect his value in that situation. They were more trying to win a game. So it could be different for different guys depending on what their situation is.
Ben, is there any doubt in your mind that Spencer Horwitz is going to get a lot of run at second base in this final portion of the season?
No doubt. I would run him out there as much as you can while keeping him healthy and in the right spot and everyone else in the right spot. But I think you may as well just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it because he could be your opening day second baseman next season. It is very possible. You know, they came into spring training all those months ago with 1 million second basemen, and Espinal got traded, and now Biggio's on another team, and Schneider plays more left than he does second at this point. And all of a sudden, there's actually some time to be had there at second base. Ernie Clement also plays a lot more third than he does second these days. So I think that, you know, IKF coming back will impact that a little bit, probably impact more Clement at third than Horwitz at second. But I would run Horwitz out there at second base as much as possible because obviously first base is taken, we think, for next year, but second base is a spot where he could be a starter if he continues to hit well.
Danny Jansen on the offensive side has basically fallen off a cliff the last month. Any reason why?
You know, I do think he's streaky in the best of times, although I would even admit that this is more than you were expecting out of him. You know, he has a very distinct style that he's not afraid to admit, where he is trying to pull a lot. And I think that guys are pitching him away, pitching him to spots where he is hurting himself, and he's maybe a little less patient than he was to start the year. He actually began this season walking a lot more than he did before, which at least looked like a sign to me that he was really in his zone with the pitches that he wanted to swing at. He's not walking as often now, and I think part of that is also he's probably swinging at some strikes that maybe he wasn't swinging at before, and those strikes are actually hurting him, even if letting them go by would cost him one. So I think that guys are getting him to swing at pitches that maybe he wasn't swinging at earlier in the year, but he is one of these guys where you feel like he could rip off a crazy week and not turn the whole season around, but hit 3 homers in 5 games or something like that if he gets in the right spot.
What's your first impressions of Leo Jimenez at shortstop and on the offensive side?
Shortstop, I really, really like it. I think for a guy who's very young right now, 23 years old, he looks incredibly confident out there. He had to make a couple of different plays on the run and had plenty of arm to get it over there this past weekend. So I like what he's providing there. I think with the bat, I like his control of the zone, and I think that he's done a good job seeing the right pitches. There was even, I think he had a strikeout 2 days ago where, you know, if he's in AAA, he would have tapped his head twice, challenged, and the call was wrong. It would have been overturned. He would have been at first base, but that's not the world we live in at the majors, so he was struck out by that pitch. But I think that, you know, he's got a very good idea, and I think he can put the bat on the ball. It's just, you know, how hard is he going to hit the ball, and can he, you know, have a little bit of extra base power, which he's had some doubles, so you never know. But I'm a little more in wait-and-see mode with the bat. It is only 11 games in. I already think the glove is kind of ready to go at shortstop and is an exciting thing because, you know, you just have to hit enough, really, if you're going to be a really good shortstop. And he looks like he might be one of those guys who's really good over there.
You have any idea if this Springer is here to stay offensively?
You know, I would say, you know, in like a vacuum in a black and white world, this Springer probably won't stay the whole time. I mean, he has been one of the American League's best for a month, but I think, you know, he's back around where his total numbers were last year. I think at a minimum he can maintain those numbers. I actually think he'll probably continue to hit well. I don't know that he'll hit this well. This is pretty ridiculous what he's doing, but I could see him getting to that 20 homer mark. Maybe he's hitting 250 by the end of the year. And is it exactly what everyone wanted? Certainly not. But is it production? Yeah, and I think after, you know, the first couple months of the season, you'll take it. So I think it'll drop a little bit from where we are now, but it really does seem like he's found something. It's been a month-long period, really, where he's been all over fastballs. Mm-hmm. And you know more about hitting than I do, Kevin, and so do plenty of people around here. But, you know, if I get nerdy and look into the numbers, teams who hit fastballs hit well, and guys who hit fastballs hit well. And it's fairly simple, even if you want to look at it in a pretty nerdy way. So I think that if you hit fastballs, you're going to be in a good spot, and he's hitting fastballs. He's in a great spot.
Well said.
Ben, good stuff as always, my friend. We look forward to your call tonight.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Be well. Ben Shulman. He'll have the call of tonight's game on Sportsnet.
It's amazing. It is amazing when you hit that heater, ain't it? Oh, it's amazing.
It does free up a lot of
well,
things.
I mean, it's like
it?
you asked me. You asked me 2 months ago if you were the hitting coach for the Blue Jays, what would you like to do? I think that somehow you asked me a similar, somewhat of a question like that, and I said, try and be the best fastball hitting team in baseball. It's simple. Like you're not going to make a living off hitting breaking balls. It's just not going to happen. All of a sudden, Vladdy's turned it around. Why?
Hitting the heater.
He ain't chasing. He's hitting the fastball. Springer's turning it around. Why?
He's hitting the heater.
It's like it's amazing when you start a destroying velocity, how you get hanging breaking balls. It is amazing. Because you know what they do? Can't throw that. Now I got to aim this. I want to make sure I get it over there. And when you try and get it over there, you hangy. When you hangy,
Ben mentioned that John
Rocket
Schneider
science.
talked about paying particular attention tonight to the sharpness of Jose Barrios' breaking ball.
I think it's arm side command. I think it's the consistency of just the sort of the rhythm and timing of his mechanics. I think that's a big deal. Again, I think there is something to how many innings he's thrown since 2018. People roll their eyes, but man, he's thrown a lot. Like he takes the ball
he's throwing a ton
every
of innings.
5 days. He'll take the ball, and he gives you quite a few innings when he takes the ball. So, and it's normally against some good teams who are left-handed, and like you gotta be real good glove side. You gotta be really good arm side. And that means you're changing speeds both sides of the plate. Now again, he's a big leaguer. He's been around forever. He should know how to do that.
You've also
it's a lot to ask.
You've also mentioned this too in the past with him. He has a lot of outings.
Yeah.
Where he has to work.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
You know what I mean? He has a lot of outings where he has very few 1, 2, 3 pitch innings or 6 pitch innings.
Say I'm facing Soto and I'm Barrios, and I front hip 2-seam him, strike 1, he takes it. I throw my best changeup down and away. It's 0-2. What do I throw him now? I'm not talking about the actual person Soto. I'm talking about Barrios. That's the predictability of a lot of the times with him. He doesn't know what to throw, and I think that's where he gets in trouble. And it's a little tougher. There's a lot of those with the Blue Jays now. Bassett really don't know. Gosman really don't know. Uriel Rodriguez really don't know. Yusei Kikuchi for sure don't know. And now you're seeing Barrios because the sinker, the 2-seamer, it's more of a 2-seamer now for whatever reason than a sinker. That thing's been getting hammered a little bit. Slugs up on that. The 4-seamer's been getting annihilated. So if it's getting annihilated, how with a 2-strike, I'm going to go elevated with that.
Well, that's
the where he's sort of at, right?
Basically, you made it sound like the entire starting rotation's a mess right now.
It is. Why do you think they lead baseball in giving up the big one? This ain't rocket science.
That's supposed to be the strength of the team.
This is not. Yeah, again, it gets back to that. When you don't go out and fix your problem in the offseason, take pressure off of your strength, then your strength thinks every pitch is like the 7th game of the World Series, April 3rd, and then it sort of turns into this, and then you get dudes aiming balls, and then you get into bad habits. And
let me
ain't rocket science.
Let me ask
I
you
don't
about
speak khaki, but I've been around long enough to know that.
Let me ask you about a guy that we haven't really talked about a lot. And I just noticed when Ben was talking, it's got a little boop on my iPhone. There's some talk that New York Yankees, who are looking for bullpen help, might be interested in reuniting with Chad Green. What do you think Chad Green is right now? And I don't think they're not looking at him as to be their closer, but he's a guy who's pitched in New York. He's pitched in the bright lights, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think maybe Chad Green has more value as a trade chip than Jimmy Garcia?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I get back to that. 2 left-handed, say in the 7th inning they bring him in, 2 lefties and a righty. What's he throwing a lefty other than an elevated fastball? Tell me.
Yeah.
There you go. What's Jimmy throwing you? He's got like a plethora of a toolbox that he can go to, changing speeds and throwing 98. 98 ain't 95. So, yeah, I mean, I've said this about Chad Green forever. Like when it mattered, it doesn't matter anymore. When it mattered, like if you were a Jays fan, let's be honest, you were like playing peekaboo. Like you were, I know they were trying to sell it because they gave him a couple of year deal, gave him a chance to figure out his injury and rehab, and want to make sure we have him because we don't trust Jordan Romano 100%. Like all that comes into play, right? Like they're saying it without saying it. What sort of they're trying to figure out and try and solidify and trying to make their run, and they need guys. The lights are not going to bother them. But how's he getting the lefty up? I'd say that's why I said I think I asked Caleb a couple of weeks ago, can he develop a split finger in season? Because he needs it. See,
this gets back to something that we've talked about a little bit though too, is that the one of the things that, like, I almost wonder in some ways, if you're not going to get a great deal for Danny Jansen, you got to have somebody who catches this year. Maybe you hang on to Danny Jansen, then you take the draft pick in the offseason if he's not going to come back.
Fans like Danny.
Hmm?
So that will come. Fans like Danny.
Yeah, and Danny. I don't think Danny's going to wake up the morning after the trade deadline and go, I can't believe I got to stay in Toronto. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's. I don't think he's necessarily going to think that way. But the more I look at the Jays, the players that they will be moving, this gets back to something that I said, and you referred to this as well. How many really move the needle? How many of those players really move the needle? If you're a postseason team,
Jimmy Garcia,
Houston Astros, bingo. Maybe, again, we talked about Chris Bassett because he's got all that stuff. Maybe you take Chris Bassett into the National League. He was with the Mets for all, but maybe Chris Bassett goes to Milwaukee. I don't know. Maybe he's a guy you can use in the postseason. But a lot of those, I don't know if there is somebody, I don't know if the Jays have somebody that I could look at that they're wanting to trade that I can say, man, if I get that guy in my team,
that's why
I go to the postseason. That guy's going to help me win a playoff game.
That's why Passan come on and said he'd trade Vladdy because Seattle's looking for a first baseman. And Seattle's got a plethora of people they can give the Blue Jays for Vladdy because there ain't nobody else. That's why he's saying that. They're like you're trading.
And there aren't a lot of,
you're trading them to be trading
hitters. Looking at the hitters that are on the market, there's not a ton of hitters. I mean, there's guys like Jazz Chisholm, are names out there. That's why, you brought up something with Brian Anderson. I think the guy I'm keeping an eye on is Paredes.
Absolutely.
Because that's a guy on that market. You mentioned, I mean, there are like 5 teams that would take that dude right now.
For whatever reason, the dude can hit, and he can hit with traffic.
Yes.
Which is a big deal. You want those kind of at-bats against good pitching. So, I don't know. That still wouldn't change the fact that I'd trade him. Like, I'm trading Yusei, I'm trading Jimmy, I'd trade Chad Green, I'd trade Danny Jansen if somebody wants him, I'd trade Kirk in a second. I would trade one of the 3, Gosman, Bassett, Barrios, whoever, one of those 3 that I could get the most for. Right now, you got an opportunity here, and fans have accepted it. Like, you got an opportunity now, like you did in the offseason when you didn't bring your third baseman back. You didn't have your second baseman with Merrifield. Like, you had an opportunity to sort of,
The big difference then in the offseason, you could have used some money to get the deal.
Now you got an opportunity to sort of make your team out the way you want to make it out. Now it's about relationships and who you want doing it. That could be the biggest thing out of all this. Who's doing it? Who's doing all the trading? They feel comfortable enough to have the GM that's here now doing it. That's a big question too. So there's some unknowns. There's some heavy lifting. It's coming. It really is. And I just don't think, this is me personally, I think it's not as hard as everybody thinks it is to sort of get it where the 3 wild cards, and it ain't like they're fighting to win the East. That ain't the goal. The goal is to be relevant in September and have meaningful baseball and keep fannies in the seats. And, it's not. It's exactly what it is. Well,
I thought those days were gone.
It's their words. What did they say? They've made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. I mean, they got their tails kicked, but they made the playoffs out of the last 3 out of the 4 years.
So we are an hour and a bit away from first pitch at the Rogers Center on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Shulman will have the call on the radio side. And Blair and Barker will be along following the game with Blue Jays Talk. We'll be back here tomorrow from 4 to 6 Eastern. And as we mentioned, a week left until the trade deadline. Are we now officially in hug watch? Where the camera goes in the dugout.
Absolutely.
You see all the guys hugging.
Absolutely. Turkey hugging people tonight.
Hug watch begins. That's it for us. Fan pregame's next.